Okay, so now for the best bit, where we turn our seams the right way around, or inside out, or whatever you like to say. There we go. So we've now got the liner and the outer nicely together, and you can see what I mean by seamless. You basically just can't see the seam allowance. It's all nicely tucked into the liner of the fabric. So there we go, there's that one. And then we turn this one the right way. Oh, that's so pretty. Okay, so getting excited about this. So yeah, as you can see, that's all sitting really lovely. That's all nicely together because we glued it down. So yeah, so we need to do one more step on the lace one that we don't need to do on this one. So what we need to do now is to top stitch this down, this scallop edge lace down. So then you've basically got the lace and the liner acting as one layer of fabric. So I have just noticed, so I completely forgot about this, but obviously we've got the right side of the fabric on this side, which I would usually do, but we've now got the wrong side of the jersey on this side. It doesn't really matter, you can't really tell too much, but if you're going to do a design like this, then it would be better to have the outer layer of the fabric facing outward, but that's just for appearances really. So how we're going to do this is, so again, we can either pin this down, which I think in this instance it would be better. So you could use the glue stick or the 505 temporary adhesive spray, and you could spray this in the right place. But because we're using the glue stick and not the spray, it's just a little bit trickier because the fabric drags a bit. So I think what we'll actually do, we'll pin this in place and not use the glue stick on this one. So we need to match the seam up at the bottom with the center notch on the liner, and then we know that that's matched up right, like that. And then pin this on. And then make sure at the seam here that it's all laying flat, so maybe put a pin in that bit, because otherwise if it's not, this top layer could potentially create like an extra fold in the fabric, and then you've taken that fabric away when it needs to be in the front layer to make it the same as the liner. So put your pin in there to make sure it's all flat, and then in the middle. So generally when you're pinning things, you want the edges and then the middle first, and then you do the in-betweens like that. And then onto the other side. And then once you've pinned those two sides, just make sure that those match up equally, because there's nothing worse when you've sewn it and then you realise it's not equal. So fold it right sides together, match it up at the side seams, and then check that it finishes symmetrically on both sides. So yeah, that's looking good on mine. because you are using stretch fabrics, it can move and stretch, so it's not quite as easy as using rigid fabrics. So again, pin the center first, and you've already pinned the edges of that. So once you've pinned those side bits, pin down at the bottom first. So you've got this bottom corner here, just so the lace sits in the right place. These are the most easiest parts to match up when you've got corners, but obviously notches as well. So we know that's now sitting symmetrical on both sides. So we need to pin the scallop edge lace down. There we go. So now, as you can see, I've left enough seam allowance area for the lace, so the scallop edges show nicely like that. You can fold it over and have a look. So yeah, so I'm just going to add 2 more pins down at the bottom of this side seam as well. So make sure that's all sitting flat. Like that. And then that one's done. So now we need to do the same thing pretty much to this one. Obviously this one is a lot easier because you can match it up exactly how it is on both sides. Okay, so I've now pinned all of this. As you can see, I had to use a lot of pins, especially in this bottom row. This was where the fabric was curling really bad, so I obviously wanted to put a lot of pins in to keep it all in place whilst I'm sewing. So now we need to top stitch this scallop edge down, and then we need to use the basting stitch to baste all of this on. So if you're using the temporary 505 spray, then you wouldn't have to use the basting stitch. Would still be stitching along the scallop edge lace here because we're using a different stitch for that. But yeah, so that would save you a sewing step as well.